right. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us for our next Family Orientation Live session. Today's orientation is about the Freshman Transition Program. So if you've logged onto this call, your student is probably a member of the Freshman Transition Program, we hope. That's who should have gotten the invitation for today. And we have our FTP expert on the call to answer your questions. So I'm going to let her go ahead and introduce herself.
Yeah, we're still looking for that expert, Catherine. So hello, everyone. I'm Jeannie Gear. I'm the coordinator of the Freshman Transition Program. I am the woman behind the emails and the phone calls. So I certainly appreciate that you have tuned in for today. I know that there are a million more fun things that you could be doing on a beautiful summer afternoon. So I'm very happy that you have taken the time to stop in and submit your questions. I do want to say, as a bit of a disclaimer, here we go. I know that there is an immense concern as far as instructional modality for the fall semester. Will my student be in person on Towson University's campus? Will they be exclusively online? Will they be part of some sort of hybrid format of partially online, partially in person? My answer to this question is I don't have an answer to this question. So, you know, I say this in jest a bit, but let me tell you, I can assure you that these issues are being worked out amongst the highest echelons of senior staff at the Community College of Baltimore County, as well as on the Towson University side. These conversations are happening ongoing. And as soon as I have concrete information, I will not hesitate in relaying that to you. It's just that we have nothing that has been approved officially. Therefore, we're all waiting and seeing. I'm waiting and seeing just like the rest of you. Let me also say in regards to financial aid, I have always sort of advertise that I'm a generalist for financial aid, which I am. So if you have any questions about financial aid and billing, I should be able to do a pretty good job of answering those questions at the surface level. Any questions that delve further into your students' personal financial aid or aspects of billing, those are going to be best referred to Mr. Barry Amos, who is the Assistant Director of Financial Aid at the Community College of Baltimore County. So I know you've seen his contact information everywhere. I may have referred you personally. So just keep in mind that if you do have a question that I am unable to answer to your liking today, that he would be the best contact for that. So with that said, I throw it back to Catherine for
Yeah, we can start taking questions. So there are a few ways that you can let us know you have a question today. So you can put a question in the chat, and I see we've got our first chat question. And then you can also use the raise hand function, and that will let us see that you have a question. You're currently not able to unmute yourself, but if you raise your hand, we'll be able to give you the ability to speak your question out loud if you'd like. So whatever works for you, we can work with on our end. But we'll start with the first question.
Yes, so I can see that on my end as well, the question from Hope. Thank you for writing in and for being the first to go here. For students that have not heard about financial aid, because that's Hope's question, I haven't heard about financial aid yet. Let me tell you that you will get information about this next week. The reason that we haven't been able to send anything thus far is because class schedules had not been created, the billing process was not yet incited. Let me tell you that all of that is in the workings this week, and I have been assured by our financial aid staff at Ccbc that communication is going to go out to all students and their parents early next week. So thank you, Hope.
I'm seeing another question for you, Jeannie. So has it been decided that all classes are online? And excuse me, if it has been decided that all classes are online, can the school help at all with trying to get us out of apartment leases for the school year?
That is an excellent question. One that I actually don't have the answer to, although I would suggest that Housing and Residence Life would be your point of contact. Is there a way that we can share that information, Catherine and Katie, with the families, like our relevant contacts, maybe after the presentation?
So we can put things in the chat that go to all attendees. So as we go, Kristen, if you want to keep rocking and rolling with the questions, I can find information and put it in the chat. I will say that for apartments, for the spring, Towson University did the best they could to encourage off-campus apartments to be flexible with their students. I'm not sure, other than on-campus housing that Towson University has jurisdiction over, that they will be able to influence the apartment complexes other than asking nicely. That's really the level of power TU has over the off-campus apartments.
So Jeannie, another question that I'm seeing is, so since financial aid is being released next week, is that the reason that students and family members might not be able to accept any loans?
Yeah, so up until this point, students have not had a profile on the Ccbc side where your financial aid can be tracked. So all of that exists now, and that was confirmed in an email I sent out maybe about 2 weeks ago. So you can keep an eye on that as far as looking at aid that has been applied to your account, and now you can go ahead and begin submitting any financial aid paperwork to the Ccbc Dundalk Financial Aid Office. The contact information or the address and whatnot, that's all contained on each individual form. And let me also just say as a reminder, students cannot and parents cannot apply for loans online. These have to be submitted via paper form. And I believe that email is being accepted now by the financial aid office as far as submitting those documents. Do keep in mind that almost all of our staff on the Ccbc side is either teleworking or is part of a rotating operation of being on campus. So do excuse if there's a bit of a lag time with processing. Although they are doing their best to process from home, I've been told.
Awesome, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So do you know, is there a goal date or week about a solid decision about when classes will be determined to be given either online, remotely, or in person?
If I knew that the answer to that question, I would be a much happier human being with a few less gray hairs, maybe. So let me say no, there is not a concrete date just yet. Although I have been told by senior administration here on the Ccbc side that it's coming soon. That's all I have.
All right, thank you. So is there a date when family members will receive a bill for fall tuition?
Yes, so that will happen early next week. I hesitate to pin it on Monday or Tuesday, but definitely you should have that within the coming days. So the way that will work is students will receive an email from the financial aid office letting them know that their bill exists now and that they can go into their My Ccbc Simon account, which is the same place that students have been directed to go in and view their class schedule. So you can go in and look at the, look at the billing tab and see your full balance there.
Thank you. And so referring back to the question about classes, if they'll be given online or in person. So Towson students have the option to opt to take classes strictly online. Do FTP students have that?
Regretfully, no. So think of it this way. Towson University has its policies for how students are going to be brought back to campus or how instruction is going to occur in the fall. Ccbc has a set of standards of how instruction is going to work in the fall. FTP is its own sort of hybrid institution between these two, so that the decisions that are being made are specifically applicable to the freshman transition program. So in other words, you can't base it on what friends of yours that are going to Towson are hearing versus maybe other friends of yours that are going to Ccbc are hearing.
Thank you. All right, I see a few questions about housing. And just so everybody knows, there is a little bit of uncertainty around housing, but there will be a housing panel late on June 23rd. So for anyone who is interested in attending.
Do we mean July?
July, excuse me, sorry, July 23rd, I apologize.
July 28th. I think
July.
23rd is the campus safety presentation. Let me double check.
I apologize, everyone. So another question about financial aid and tuition. So should classes be online, will in-state tuition be changed, or if someone lives out of state, will they be charged out-of-state tuition if classes are online?
So the rate of tuition won't change. So a student will pay the same amount of cost per course, whether it is on-site or whether it's online. Good question.
Thank you. I see a question, are FTP students allowed to defer to next semester or next fall?
Deferral isn't an option for our FTP students, unfortunately. So if you decide, if your family comes to the decision that fall 2020 is not the right time to start in the transition program, then you have the options of reapplying to Towson, either as a freshman if you don't take credits elsewhere, or as a transfer student if you do take credits elsewhere. But unfortunately, it's not possible to defer your participation in the transition program.
Right. And just to reiterate, the Housing and Residence Life panel is on July 28th, and the Campus Safety panel is on July 23rd. This information can all be found on Towson University's Foundly website.
I think I maybe see another question sitting there from Ms. Hildred regarding 2 students or more sharing a dorm, and perhaps Catherine or Kristen can clarify, because you probably have a better pulse on housing than I do. But from my understanding, tripling 3 students or more is not permitted. Can you guys speak a bit more to that?
Yeah, that is also my understanding. They are truly trying to minimize the number of students who are sharing spaces. I believe that they have centered their policy about restroom use more so than space occupancy. So no more than 2 students will share a restroom. So I'm not sure what that means about actual room occupancy, like if there's a room with an attached restroom, if they could have 2 students in there, because that does mean no more than 2 students are sharing a restroom. But Housing and Residence Life is really trying to do the best they can. I know a lot of Towson students are opting to take all of their courses online, and therefore continuing to cancel housing. So if you're someone who's asking because you weren't able to get housing, submit that what's it called,
Is it the appeal? Is that what you're looking for?
Submit your appeal, see how that goes, because you very well might be able to get a spot.
All right, Jeannie, and another question about the FTP program. So is it 2 semesters long, and are all of the credits that students take during their time with the FTP program, are they going towards the undergraduate degree?
Okay, so I think this is the question from Miss Washington. Thank you for asking it. The FTP is a maximum of 2 semesters long. So it can span the full gamut of the freshman year, fall and spring. However, 80% of our students do meet the transition criteria for moving on to Towson after 1 semester. So that is the goal for all students and families typically, is to move forward based on successful academic completion of the program. The ability to stay in the program for a second semester, for the spring semester, is based on academic need only. Therefore, if a student has not met the transition criteria to move on after the first semester, the fall semester, we give them one more opportunity to do so in the spring. A student can't elect to stay in the program by choice for a second semester. And then also I'll say, in regards to our success rate from previous years, about 90% of our cohort who starts in the fall semester of a given academic year moves on for full transition to Towson University as a sophomore. So we're really proud of that. Was there another piece to Ms. Washington's question?
I believe you answered all parts.
Okay.
All right, and a question from Ms. Kathleen. Do students have their class schedule yet?
Yes, ma'am. Yes. So that email notification went out, I want to say, on the 9th of last week. So it was sent to each student's Towson student email account, as well as the personal email account that you've provided. So please go back and check for that. If you do not have said email from me, please reach out and let me know, and I would be happy to resend it. But let me also say that, again, the class schedule is accessible through your My Ccbc Simon account. So as long as you can get into that account, you can see your schedule. If you're not sure how to get into that account, the steps are outlined in that email.
Thank you. And so next semester, will students need to reapply to Towson after they complete their first semester of the FTP program?
Nope, that's the beauty of our program. We really bill ourselves as a seamless transfer to Towson University. That means as long as you successfully complete the academic requirements for our program to move on, then you move on. So these are all sort of back of house processes that Ccbc and Towson complete to get students moved over. You do not have to reapply.
Awesome. And what is the transition criteria? Is there any specific transition criteria?
Yes, there are multiple levels of transition criteria. They are posted on the transition program website. But just to give you a quick rundown of what they are, students need to finish out the fall semester with a term GPA of a 3.0 or better, which is a B average. They need to stay enrolled in a full-time course load, which is at least 4 college level classes. Students are enrolled in 5 classes. So keep in mind that gives the student the ability to withdraw from one class if they so choose during the semester, and that is something that has to be approved and facilitated by me. A student cannot elect to change their schedule on their own, so just want to make that clear. A student has to earn a minimum letter grade of C in each course in order to transition. And that would include developmental or non-college level math. And they also need to be free of any conduct holds, immunization holds, student account holds that might otherwise prevent them from transitioning to Towson.
Thank you. So one of the classes that a student has on their schedule is a non-credit class. Can you explain that?
Yes, happily. So non-credit math is intended to prepare a student for college level math. So a student would take a non-credit course. It would still count toward the minimum for full-time enrollment, and it would also serve as the prerequisite for the next highest level math in a student's math progression for their major. This may sound very abstract to students and families at this point. Rest assured that when your student is assigned a first-year experience advisor, that individual will be explaining that throughout the fall semester, so you can ensure that you're registering for the appropriate math class in the spring if you move on to Towson.
Awesome, wonderful. So is there a process for requesting a deferral? And I know you said that there wasn't a traditional one, but what if there is a medical accommodation or some other extreme situation?
Yeah, that's a wonderful question. In such special cases as this, certainly please reach out to me. I would work in tandem with university admissions and the director of admissions to see if we can facilitate those kinds of accommodations.
Thank you. And again, so you mentioned that the billing date was next week, correct?
Yeah, so it will be early next week. I hesitate to put a specific tag as far as the date, but if you keep an eye out on your email account, student's personal email account, Towson student email account, as well as the parent email account that was indicated on the FERPA form, if a student submitted it, then yeah, you should be able to receive that early next week.
Wonderful. And so if a student has courses coming from Ccbc directly, how can those classes be transferred to Towson?
This is in reference to FTP classes, I'm assuming. So the way that works is we take care of all of that transfer of credits on your behalf. So we will furnish your Ccbc official transcript that has your FTP courses. We will send that over to Towson admissions free of charge to you. There is no request that a student has to make in order for this to happen. Towson admissions will then evaluate those credits for transfer. Let me make clear that every college level course that a student takes through our program will transfer to Towson, will count toward a student's degree progression for their bachelor's. And to reiterate, non-college level courses, i.e. developmental math, while they do not transfer to Towson, they satisfy the prerequisite for the next highest level math. But that's a great question. Let me also footnote that with students who have prior college credits from institutions that are not Ccbc. So if you've done dual enrollment in high school, if you have advanced placement or IB credit, you will want to send those documents, those transcripts, those score reports officially to Towson, as we cannot complete that part for you. You'll receive several reminders from me throughout the semester that if you have prior credits, to get that information over to Towson so that they can formally evaluate it and apply it to your academic record.
Thank you for that clarification. So just so you can be looking with me, I'm shifting back to the Q&A. Ms. Hildred's question: how will students obtain financial aid once they have transferred to Towson University full-time?
Just to kind of give a short answer to that question, we will have, as we have in years past, a next steps financial aid and billing meeting that we invite all of our students and families to in late November. So that is when financial aid staff at Towson will explain how financial aid gets applied once the student moves on to Towson. From what I understand, it's much easier than what you're going through right now. So can look forward to that maybe.
Thank you. And about the bill, so where can family members find the bill for each semester?
Yep, again, that's going to be accessible through the My Ccbc Simon account while the student is part of the transition program. The steps for accessing the bill, those are going to be relayed in the message that comes from the financial aid office early next week.
Awesome. So can a family member or a parent speak to an advisor on their student's behalf to make sure that they're on the right track?
Fuzzy line with that. So parents and or other designated persons can work with the financial aid and billing office in regards to their students' aid and their bill. However, in terms of academics, that is exclusively conducted between the student and the advisor. So we are not at liberty to discuss academics specifically with parents. We can't talk about course grades and things of that sort. I will also say that perhaps any questions about a student's major progression could be answered by looking at the undergraduate catalog that's on Towson's website. But again, this is something that we'll work with students much more closely throughout the fall semester to make sure that they understand the requirements for their major and what they need to do to graduate from Towson.
Perfect. And I don't want to miss a question that I see in the chat. How do you know if a course is for credit or non-credit?
Generally, all of our courses through the transition program are for college credit, unless a student is enrolled in Math 082, which is introductory algebra, or 083, which is intermediate algebra. And as I said, those will still count toward the prerequisite for the next highest math in their major progression.
Okay, and another question back in the Q&A. How many students are participating in FTP this fall semester?
The magic number right now is 168. So this is actually a little bit higher than what we've had in years past. But generally, the window is usually anywhere from maybe like 150 to 180. And let me also say in footnote to that, FTP students take classes with each other exclusively. So when you're in an FTP course, you're not taking that course with non-FTP students. And all of those courses are taught or facilitated by Ccbc instructors that have been appointed by their academic departments here.
And just to clarify about whether classes will be online or in person, that is determined by the professor and the FTP program. It's not an option, correct?
Can I footnote that as well? The professors themselves don't have any control over that on the Ccbc end either. So whether or not classes are going to be in person and the modality is going to be dictated by Ccbc, and these are issues that we are still waiting for answers for. And I'm sorry, and I think I might have seen a question about class size. So all of that will be sort of fleshed out once we get the directive from the senior leadership at Ccbc as far as whether we're going to be in person, online, or some sort of combination. But certainly if we're in person, social distancing measures will have to be applied, proper masking, 6 feet apart, and all of those stipulations that we're used to in all other facets of life at this point.
I'll add to that, Jeannie, that if folks have questions about Towson University, like the campus response to coronavirus precautions, it's towson.edu/coronavirus. You can see all the updates on what's going on campus about keeping people safe and how we're responding, testing, masking, all of it.
Wonderful. That's a great note. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm seeing a question about the due date of fall tuition. So is that changing due to everything that's going on?
So that information, the billing due date, is going to be conveyed in the communication that comes out next week. We realize that you are up against a tight timeline as far as the start of the fall semester. Let me echo, I think that was a question that might have come up from someone else. When does the fall semester start? So let me make clear that that will be August 24th, and that's not just for FTP, that's for all Towson classes, if I understand that correctly. So again, the due date for the bill will be communicated in the communication that you get early next week.
Wonderful. So will the FTP program have the same dates as Towson University's academic calendar?
Generally, yes. Yeah. So the note about Towson University going fully online beginning November 30th, that's going to apply to FTP as well. There'll be no in-person classes after that point. We may not even have them before that point, but again, that's part of what we're waiting for.
Awesome, wonderful. And I know there's a lot of uncertainty, so thank you. So does Ccbc have transcripts from high school, or should they? And if they should, how do we know if they have the student's transcript?
That is a great question. At this point, I have been advising those who ask to send their high school transcript to Towson. That's always been part of the to-do list, is to send the high school transcript to Towson. I realize that students are seeing the queue in their Ccbc account to send a transcript to Ccbc. When in doubt, you can always send the transcript to me personally, and then I can go ahead and funnel that through on the Ccbc side. So there's the answer. Go ahead and send that to me directly, and then I can make sure that it gets to where it needs to go on the Ccbc side.
Wonderful. And so I think just to clarify a question that we had a little bit earlier, about transferring classes from CCBC. So is there any way to ensure that a class taken at CCBC will transfer to Towson to ensure that a student is not repeating a class or course?
Yeah, we take great care in making sure that all of the credits count toward graduation. They have to be pre-approved before we even offer them as part of the program. As far as course duplication, we keep a close eye on students' registration for the spring semester at Towson. Students get to pick their own classes at that point if they're on pace to transfer from our program. So we look very carefully to make sure that they're not duplicating courses that they've taken through the transition program. And we do our best to account for any prior college credits that they may have earned as well. Of course, the onus is on the student to make sure that we have all of the necessary prior transcripts and score reports to validate that you have earned those credits that you think you've earned.
Okay, and when does our student get their advisor?
Excellent question. So everyone should be receiving that information by the middle of August. So I would say perhaps maybe around that second or third week. And I guess maybe I can speak to this a little tiny bit. There's the Welcome to Towson program that the lovely folks here of New Students and Family Programs coordinate. Typically, that's when students interact with their first year experience advisor for the first time. I think that is still the plan, but more information is going to be forthcoming about how exactly we do that, whether it'll be virtual or whether there's some sort of in-person component.
Awesome. So do you have any idea what classes might look like if they are online?
So I can speak to the fact that any online learning, we would classify it as remote synchronous. That means students would actually have to sit down and tune in at the specific date and time that the class is slated to run. So it's not as if it's a strictly online format where you just kind of log in, and as you log in, you would be required to do that in a prearranged format.
Mm-hmm. And is there anywhere that family members can find an academic calendar for the FTP program with when classes start, when they end, Thanksgiving break, all of those dates?
So because we adhere to Towson's operational calendar, that is what all of our families are encouraged to follow. So you may want to include that in your list of references for families, the operational calendar for the fall, because we'll adhere to the same start date, end date, final exam schedule, and whatnot.
Perfect. And Jeannie, I see a question about your contact info.
Yeah, sure. Feel free to go ahead and type that into the box there. If you go through and check your Towson student email account, your personal email account, undoubtedly you will have emails from me, probably many emails from me that are sitting there. So certainly you'll be able to see my info there as well.
And so their classes will be ultimately decided by Ccbc, whether classes will be online, correct?
Yep.
Do either of you see questions that I'm missing right now?
Did I miss the answer to what do class sizes look like at this point? I might have.
So that is all contingent upon how instruction is going to be delivered as far as how many people are going to be together at one time. I mean, the enrollments are already completed, so we know which students are assigned to which courses. But I think probably the question speaks more to how would it work maybe on site. So we're not quite sure yet. I know that Towson, the rooms department is enforcing COVID capacity and things like that to make sure that that the proper distancing is maintained within a classroom. So unfortunately, I don't have anything more concrete to share at this point, but I will.
So if classes are decided to be online, will students have to be on campus? On Towson's campus?
I'm really not sure of the answer to that question, how exactly that'll work in the event that we're completely online. So that's going to be a TBD to be determined.
So how will students apply for scholarships after completing FTP?
So I want to say that that's a great question. I want to say that there is a scholarship portal that is available through Towson's site, Scholarship Seeker, I want to say. So as far as I know, but again, I am not a financial aid and scholarship expert, but as far as I know, students could comb through that list and start applying for scholarships individually if they meet that criteria. But this is also part of what will be covered during the next steps meeting in November for students that are moving on in the spring.
All right, and a question about on-campus living. When will students receive information about that if they apply? They should have already received information, correct, Catherine? I think you might be able to speak to that.
Yeah, so my understanding is that Housing and Residence Life is still working through students who have applied for on-campus housing. So as students rescind their request for housing, they are going through their wait list and their appeals list. So I'm not sure that there is current open available space. I do believe that you might still be able to get on their wait list if you're looking for on-campus housing. So I can go back and drop them in the chat. I know that if you've joined after something's been in the chat, you might not be able to see it, but I can put the on and off campus links to housing in the chat again as well.
And Jeannie, another question about the modes of classes. When is there going to be an answer? Are you sure about classes being online or in person?
Yeah, once again, regretfully, I don't have a specific date. It's all contingent upon when the senior administration at CCBC reaches a consensus. They're working on it. They're talking through it. It is far beyond my personal scope. So as soon as a decision is made, everyone will be informed promptly.
I see. Can I send out the links in this chat by email after this is over? So that's a great question about like what happens after this. So this session is being recorded. It will be posted so that you can view it whenever you need to. But I can send this recording as well as the links after after this is over, just to our little FTP group here.
And students should have received their schedule, correct?
Yep, that's correct. So email notifications about that, again, that went out on July the 9th, I want to say, for me, again, to every student's personal email account that they have indicated, as well as their Towson student email account. I love seeing the nice little acknowledgments and accolades that come up in the chat box. So thank you to those of you that are thanking us. we see it and we're grateful.
Are there any other questions before we do some wrap up, give some wrap up information? All right, I'm not seeing anything come through. I like to end these calls by asking our presenter to give contact information. So if these folks continue to have questions, who are the best people for them to contact? Where should they go?
Yep, absolutely. So I generally am your starting point for all things FTP. As I said, I know there have been questions about contact information. I have been emailing your students a lot over the past couple weeks, so I know that my email address is probably sitting in their inbox. If someone maybe could type into the chat box my email address, that would be great. I can recite it. if you like, if you want to grab your pen and paper. So I'll go ahead and do that. It's J as in James, GYR as in Robert, at ccbcmd as in Maryland, .edu. And I also want to say in regards to contact, email is far and away the best way to contact me. So as issues come up, I certainly encourage email over phone. Let me also say on a personal note, I will be out of the office beginning tomorrow, and I will not be returning until July 27th. So if there are any emerging issues that come up at that time, you'll get an out of office kickback from me that'll have all of the pertinent contact information in regards to your question. Otherwise, if it's something that specifically relates to the program itself or things that I manage, I certainly will be back in touch with you during the week of the 27th.
Do you happen to have offhand, Jeannie, your the financial aid contact for FTP?
So the financial aid contact information is going to be on our program website. So for students that go on and look at the enrolled student to-do list, which I hope everyone is doing, if you look at the financial aid page, that's going to be listed there for Barry Amos. He's our #1 point of contact, as well as Michael Webster.
Excellent. That's great.
We try.
Anything else you need for them to know?
You guys have done a wonderful job of asking questions. I'm sure that this was not all encompassing and other questions will come up. That's what we're here for. And let me just say, just on a personal note, I feel your struggle acutely as far as what you're going through with your students and whether or not they're going to be on site. How will instruction work? I have a 4-year-old and a 5-year-old myself, and just figuring out how the county schools are going to be proceeding with the new school year is taxing on my end, just as a parent. So please know that we feel your struggle, and we know that I don't know is not the answer that you want to hear at this time, but by the same, we're taking great care to advise you appropriately and accurately with the information that we do have. Thank you all.
Thank you for that. So as we learn more, yes, we absolutely want to share that out with you. We were pretty intentional about how we structured our family orientation sessions so that the things that we thought might take a little while to answer, like housing and residence life, are coming a little later in this series. So you haven't missed that information. What I'd encourage you to do is to go to towson.edu/families. As we move through this process, as we get more information, we are working with families to make sure that you have as much information as we can possibly give you. So there are a couple things on that page I want to direct you to. First is the Towson University for Families newsletter. So if you sign up for that newsletter, it's totally free, and you can make sure that it doesn't email you more than you want it to. You can get information about what's happening at TU. We do use the announcement and alert feature to make sure that if something critical happens on campus, that you know that we've made a big decision, a big announcement has come out. It's different than our safety alerts, but it does make sure that you get some of those big announcements right to your email inbox. The other thing that's on that towson.edu/families page is the schedule of all of these webinars. It's where the recording will be posted of today's session, and it's where all the upcoming webinars and the links to join will be listed. So hopefully you can continue to join us during these sessions so that you get information about housing, about how we're keeping our students safe, and then about student life, what it's like to be on campus. Those are the ones that we have left to go. And then if you missed the ones on health and counseling, I think those would be the ones that your students might be interested in. That is posted there. The other ones might not be as helpful to this group because they're about advising and financial aid that apply to Towson University students versus freshman transition program. But again, if you have questions, please, please, please contact us. We want to help you. We want to be here for you. So we're all on the same team here, trying to make your students' experience the best it can.
I think I also wanted to speak really quickly to a question that I think I saw pop up about if there's any breaking news that occurs during the week that I am away, trust that it will be communicated to you, whether it's by my superior or whether by the financial aid office. We will make sure that you have all of the information that you need as soon as it is available.
That's excellent. Thank you. So with that, I just want to say thank you to Ms. Gear. You're the best. Thank you for helping us. Hopefully we will see you. Oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't introduce myself. I'm Catherine. I'm the Assistant Director of New Student and Family Programs at TU. So you will see me on all of these family Zoom calls. My email address is the one that you got this information from. So if you have any questions, you can always reply directly to it. And then I'm going to send up a follow-up email after we close this call so that you have all the information you need as well. So thank you all, and go Tigers. Have a good afternoon.
Take care, everyone. Safe and happy summer, and we'll see you in some capacity very soon. Thanks again.
Bye-bye.